Now we're on Daf Lamed Hey Amid Beis. Shneim Pturim. Each Baal Hashar could push off the Nizak onto the other Baal Hashar and say, you're the one who did it, not me. And basically, the Nizak is in a situation where the burden of proof, if he wants to collect from either Reuven or Shimon, is on him. However, if let's say the two Shvarim were owned both by Reuven, then Shneim Chayovin, meaning the Baal Hashar could claim from this Baal HaMazik. He doesn't have to identify which shar of the two Shvarim of Reuven killed his shar. Okay. Now, let's keep in mind, as we go through the second part of the Mishnah here on Daf Lamed Hey Amid Beis, that a shar tam only pays migufa. Haya echad gadol v'echad katan. There were two shvarim that belonged to one person. One was more expensive, worth more, and the other one was small, it was worth less. Hanizak Omer Gadol Hizik. The Nizak says that my shor was killed by the Gadol, and the Bailim have to pay Chatzi Nezek as a shor tam. But now we can collect migufo, and the gufo of the Gadol is worth more than the gufo of the Katan. Hamazik Omer Lo Kiela Katan Hizik. It was the less expensive, the smaller animal that did the damage. And let's say, for example, it's a scenario in which the Dmei Katan is not enough to pay Chatzi Nezek. The Nizak has to lose, as we'll soon see. Or an alternative case, Echad Tam v'Echad Muad, HaNizak Omer Muad Hizik, V'Hamazik Omer Lo Kiela Tam Hizik. So Reuven owns two shvarim, one's a muad and one's a tam. And now the Nizak says it was the muad that was mazik, and the Baal HaMuad contradicts him and says, no, it was the tam that was mazik, which means that you can only collect chatzi nezek as hamotzi mechavel v'raya. The Mishnah continues. Hayu anizokim shnayim. Now we flip it around. Instead of the shvarim of the mazik, one was gadol and one was cut. The shvarim of the nizak, one was cut and one was gadol. Hamazikim shnayim. So there are two shvarim of the mazik that are attacking two shvarim of the nizak. Both the mazik shvarim equal a pair of gadol and katan, and the nizak has a pair of gadol and katan. Hanizak omer gadol hizik is a gadol, and katan is a katan, which makes sense. But what is the motivating factor that encourages the nizak to put forth that claim? If it's the gadol that was mazik the gadol, then there's a very large hezek here and a very large shor mazik. And if we're going to pay migufo, now we have a large pool of money, an expensive amount of money to use for the claim and bolster the claim of the nizak. But as far as the smaller animals, the smaller animal attacked the smaller animal. Hamazik omer, just the opposite. Loki ella katan es hagadol. It was the katan that attacked your gadol, and you're going to have to collect machzis hanezek from the mechira of my shor katan, right? Because that's the din of a chotzu es shor achai, and that's migufo mishalim, and therefore you're going to end up with a small amount of money to cover a large damage, and gadol es hakatan. So even though, again, when we sell the gadol, you'll certainly have enough money to cover the damage of the katan, but nevertheless, if it's katan, if it's a katan es hagadol, then it's a much smaller amount of money. That's the claim of the mazik. Then the Mishnah says, echad tam v'echad muad. If, let's say, the mazik has two shvarim, one is a tam, was a muad, hanizak omer muad hizik es hagadol, and tam es hakatan. Mazik omer lo kiela tam es hagadol umuad es hakatan. So now we're not differentiating between two values of two shvarim. That was the previous Bava. but rather two qualities of or categories of shvarim. And of course, it's in the interest of the nizak that the muad was mazik the gadol, and therefore when he gets nezek sholem, he's going to collect from the gadol. In other words, he's going to collect nezek sholem because the muad killed his shor hagadol, and tam is a cotton, and it was the tam that killed the cotton. So you're only getting chatzi nezek, but from a small amount. Hamazik omer pumfaker loki ela tam es hagadol u'ud es cotton. And once again, the Mishnah is going to apply the principle of hamotzi mechavero ol varayim. So now we're going to try to analyze this Mishnah in light of the Mishnah on Daf Memvav that records a machlokes between Chachamim and Sumchus. And Sumchus' opinion is not motzi b'chavil raya, but momena mutal b'safek cholkin. Now we have to keep in mind that there are three different possible scenarios here. It could be that both Bali Dinim, the Toveh and the Nitba, are Tainis Bari. They are convinced Bivados. It could be that the Bali Dinim are both Shema, and they don't know. It could be that one of the two Bali Dinim, the Toveh or the Nitba, is Bari, and the other one is Shema, he doesn't know. Amrav Chia bar Abba, Zoso Meres. From our Mishnah, we can derive the conclusion that chalukim olav chaveru al sumchus the omer momena mutal b'safek cholkim. That in all the cases of our Mishnah there was a safek, and we applied the principle of hamotzi mechavel v'raya, and that's against sumchus. Amalei Rab Abba bar Mama Rab Chia bar Abba. Omar sumchus hafilu bari. Did Sumchus apply the principle of Cholkim even if the Nitba is Bari? And we know that our Mishnah is talking about Bari, as we'll see in a minute, because of the language of Loki Ella. And if Loki Ella and our Mishnah applies Hamotzim Chavela Varaya against Sumchus of Mammon Hamotz V'Safi, meaning if Sumchus argues against that Mishnah and he holds Cholkim and not Hamotzim Chavera, then we could prove that even in the case of Bari, Sumchus says Cholkim. And that's a big chiddush, because the Nitba is claiming Bari. I don't owe you anything. So all we have is the taina of the tainas bari of the toveh. That's not enough to take money out of the hands of the nitba. Even Sumchus would not say such a thing. But the Gemara says in Amar Sumchus hafilu bari. In other words, basically Sumchus is saying when you have two claims that are in conflict, one with the other, one of the toveh, one of the nitba, if they're both on the same level, then cholkim, and we don't care about the mufzakus of the nitba. So now the Gemara asks the following question on Rabbi Abba. When we might masnis in bari who, the whole premise is that our Mishnah is talking about bari, and the Gemara answers the katani ze omer shorcha hizik. V'ze omer lo ki ella. So the lo ki ella indicates that the animal was killed by a sela, by a crash into a sela. That's a tainis bari. Maskif lo Rav Papa. Rav Papa said, you're going to get into trouble if you assume that our Mishnah is bari, because you're not going to be able to compare the ratio of the Sefer. Mida ratio, if you're going to tell me that in the ratio we're talking about bari, then Sefer Nami by definition to maintain the symmetry of the Mishnah, you would say that even the Sefer is talking about Bari Bari, Ema Sefer. Let's look at the Sefer. And all this is going to be a problem for the famous sheet of Rabbi Bar Nosson, which we're about to learn. What does it say in the Sefer? Hoya echad gadol v'echad katan, nizak omer gadol hizik, umazik omer loki ela katan hizik. And again, if we talk about a short tam who pays only migufo, then the mazik obviously has a better situation if it was the katan that was the mazik. And now we have another case in the Sefer. Echad tam v'echad muad nizak omer muad hizik. And therefore you have to pay me nezek shalim. Mazik omer lo ki el tam hizik. I only pay you chatzi nezek. Is hamotzi mechal v'raya. And now let's be medaik in the Mishnah. Holo maisi raya. Shakil kida omer mazik. The Mishnah is implying that if the nizak could not produce ample evidence that the shor gadol was the mazik or the muad was the mazik, then the amount of payment he's going to collect, is equal to that of the mazik, and that's going to be against Rabbi Nosson. In other words, the chatzi nezik and the migufo of the shor tam is going to be collected in event that the Nizak cannot bring a raya, but at least he'll be able to collect based on the odah of the mazik that the cotton was mazik or the shortam was mazik. Is named at every tuvta the Rabbi Bar Nosson the Yom Tonu Chita v'Hodelo B'Sorim Potter. Here too, just like in the case of Hodelo B'Saorim, the halacha is that the tovea doesn't even collect saorim. For sure, he can't collect chitim because Hamotzi Mechavel of a raya and he has no raya. But Chach let him collect siorim because the nitba agreed that he owes him siorim. Says Rabbi Nosson, no. Rabbi Bar Nosson, excuse me. That's not true. Because the very moment that he, just 1 second, let me just make the calculation, sorry. Right. The very moment that he was tovea chitim means implying tacitly that he concedes that he doesn't have any claim on saorim. So even though the nitba is moda on siorim, says Rabbi Rav Nosson, he doesn't even have to pay siorim because on the saorim there was a mechila that was implicit in the tovea who only demanded chitin and not siorim. And here too, in our case, when the nizak, right, he's the tovea, he comes over to the Tainus Bari, and he says that the mazik has to pay him for Dmei Muad. It was a Muad that knocked him out. And the mazik admits with a Tainus Bari that he's chayav lo based on a short time. And the Mishnah seems to assume that at least he has to pay him for a short time. But why not? Well, that's against Rabbi Bar Nosson, because the very fact that he's claiming that it was the Shartam who was mazik, and the Nizak, who's the Tovea, was only Tovea for a Muad, then there's an implicit mechila in the payment for a Shartam. Ella, says the Gemara, we have to assume that our Mishnah is a case of Bari v'Shema. Notice one of them is tining Bari, and the other Shema. So the Gemara says, the Kamma Bari man, the Kamma Shema man. Who's tining Bari, who's tining Shema? The Masik or the Nisa? And now the Gemara is going to analyze it from 3 different possible standpoints. Number 1, name it the Kamma Nizak Bari, who Kamma Masik Shema. If we're talking about a case where the Nizak HaTovea is a Tainus Bari and the Mazik is a Shema, is Akati Lema Tevi Tuvta the Rav Bar Nosson. Now the Kash is even stronger against Rav Nosson, because even if the Mazik is being towing Shema, and the Nizak is going to collect from the short tam, then certainly when the Mazik is towing Bari, we're not going to say that since he wasn't Tovea the Nizak at all, then he should certainly be assumed to be a Mechila. Ella de Kamma Nizak Shema v'Kamma Mazik Bari. If that be the case, that the Nizak is putting forward a Tainus Shema, then it means that it's as if they were both Tovea. You know, it's the Shor Muad and the Shor Tam are both in a situation of Shema. And if he doesn't bring a raya that the Muad was Nogeach, then he's going to pay only, he can only collect from the Mazik Chatzi Nezek of a Tmei Shmar Tam. And the Gemara's Medaikim in the Sefer Nizak Shema Umazik Bari, Reisha Nami Nizak Shema Bari, Nizak Shema Umazik Bari. The Omer Sumchas Hafilu Bahad Isrich Lashmein Delo. Could it be that even in this case where the Nizak is being Tovea Shema and the Mazik is being Tovea Bari, is Sumchas is going to say Cholkim? For sure, in this case, even Sumchas would have to admit that you can't apply the principle of Cholkim when the Tovea comes with the Tainus Shema and the Nitba comes with the Tainus Bari. Certainly, Sumchas b'mod l'chachama motzi b'chal v'raya. The Gemara answers Seifa Nizak Shema Mazik Bari, and Reisha is Nizak Bari Mazik Shema. So only in this case that we don't know, it's not known to the Mazik what exactly happened. That's where Sumchas says Cholkim, because why didn't the Mazik know to taina a tainus Bari? Why is he taining a tainus Shema? And therefore, we don't meichel a din of hamotzi mechavel of harai affecting gemara of a holodam your reishel seifa. Now you're splitting between the reish and the seifa. And the Gemara answers Amri. The Gemara answers that if the toveh is towing Bari and the nitba responds with Shema, or for example, if the toveh starts with the tainus Shema and the nitba responds with the tainus Bari, chad milse, it's all equal. Since in each one of them there's a tzad that one is a towing a tainus Bari and the other is a tainus Shema, they're all considered equal. So don't tell me that there's a difference between the reish and the seifa that splits our Mishnah into two nidonim, into two cases. In the reish, it's bari ubari, and the seifa is shema ubari. And in this case, trei mili ninu. They're two different nidonim, and we cannot assume that there are two different nidonim in the Mishnah itself, in the reish and the seifa. Okay, this leads us to Gufa, which we'll pick up in Mirza Hashem tomorrow after the two dots. Okay, then I wish you a happy Hanukkah, and thank you so much.